Ndaba emagumbamane omhlaba ngemandla sibaya esigodlweni elitsitsini mhlati ngemashumi lamabili nakuthathu imbala usho njalo ke Mswazi omnyama kulaba luthuli ulodunganzaba wasembelebeleni ulodunganzaba wasemambondweni uduma phasi bakuzwe ngezingcingo msakandaba bakuzwa ngezingcingo bayakubalekela bayethe wena waphakathi.
All right, kubumbana insimbi yesithupha ngomhla ekuseni. Beautiful Friday morning. We made it to Friday, Mpombe. How are you?
Yeah, finally here. I'm good, Space. How are you this morning?
Very well.
Sipilile, thank you for joining us. Lamhla ekuseni sicala impela somfo sesamathini philile lapho nikhona nobukela khona umsakazo Eswatini TV ngakhona nokusibukela ka YouTube Eswatini TV. It is the 20th of October 2023 nivuselako ngilungelele amakakula sema uthi ngekhethe kuba nathi lo mhla ehlelweni njengenjwayele kuyati ukuthi ngilesihlanu ngabo lesihlanu siteka donatinza abatekubhadalwa kwemthelo evikini liphelile besibuka nje kakhulukati kubhadalwa kwemthelo kwama sole traders ekakhulukati income tax returns kwama sole traders nawo lane deadline yawo kulomnyaka losetulu amhleke sidaba sibuke kubhadalwa noma ke kulethwa kwama tax kwama income returns for public officers that work in a registered company lebhadala yona VAT study teka kabandina ye communications director ka Eswatini Revenue Service Vusi Dlamini bese ke sikhulumisana nabasuka enhlanganweni lebitwa ngekuthi indalo Eswatini inhlangano ke lena lebuke nje tindzaba teknakekelwa kwemvelo batabe bane environmental campaign letabe banjele khona lapha elubonjeni inhlangano ke lena letinde khona elubonjeni batabe ba educator noma ke bafundisa sive ngetindzaba teknakekela imvelo kule phela somvole siya ke sithabe sinabo nomhla ekseni kusiniketa nje sithombe mhlambe ngetikhala lasabatibonile nje ngekunakekelwa kwayo imvelo esifundisa sasebonjeni.
And of course, we will do pay attention on some of the developments happening around the sports fraternity, particularly football. Linda Master Dlamini, our sports analyst, utasjoina lomuhla ehlelweni. Kutaba impela sonto lemnanzi kakhulu ebholeni. Siyabuka nje MTN Premier League lapangwa, and we will see Real Leopard up against Mbabane Swallows, which is one of the interesting games lataba khona kule mpela sonto. We know ukuthi Mbabane Swallows' run has been quite murky to start the season this year. Even in some of the tournaments they've been playing in, you can't really see the consistency. Mbabane Swallows has also lost a couple of players. Labafana Nabo Banele Bus Konza. They're still trying to rebuild and find their chemistry going into this season. It's still the early stages of the season. We can't really tell which team is going to really dominate the rest of the season. But it is going to be an exciting game. Real Leopard versus Mbabane Swallows. We will also look at other games. Lafayette Manzini Wanderers versus Eswatini United. latawudlalwa ke elangeni lakusasa. And Singizini Hotspurs will play Young Buffaloes as well. It's going to be an interesting game. We want to look at match day 9 of 38 after quite a long break. Your English Premier League solo agcina kudlala game mhla 8 October. They will return elangeni lakusasa. We will see Liverpool up against Everton in what will be a blockbuster of a game. But the biggest attention is Chelsea versus Arsenal. Chelsea, of course, having quite a good run after a slow start into the season, but they can't be really confident going into this game because they are facing the great Arsenal that is proving to be really great this season. It is an interesting game that we want to decipher with Linda Master Dlamini later on the show. But Man City versus Brighton, another game we want to put a spectacle on ngoba sibonile Manchester City losing to Wolves and losing to Arsenal, by the way, letawudlala ne-Chelsea. Kuthi ngabe itawudlala njani ne-Brighton, particularly with the fact that nagcina kudlala naye-Brighton they drew 1-1. So it is another spectacle of a game that we want to focus on. Let's look at our leading headlines this morning with Pepanzabeni Ed.
Sibukela ithamba embili ku-Times of Eswatini lomhla. Kanti le thamba embili loaded Kumbi in freak accident yingotikile yolenteke itolo khona lapha edolobheni eMbabane. Kuletinye thamba embili will Sibaya have Prime Minister campaigns ngumbuto ke lona. It's a wait and see. Only Mandvulo Cleopas campaigned before appointment ngekusho kwa Percy. Kanti government spokesperson Alpheus yena uthi political parties divided on attending is the right time for them to attend. Kuletinye lithamba embili Senate loser spills bins to police, F&B strike called off, and whistleblower shot dead in shop robbery.
Yeah, kutemidlalo ku-Times of Eswatini this Friday morning. Ali's 5-year bold deal has been cancelled. South African politician, businessman signed as a Landers MD in May 2019 and has stayed almost 5 weeks into the current season. Patron secretary says Ali is boss, no longer has time frame. Kanzke Gulenye, ex-Swallows midfielder at Thailand's Bangkok United. This one speaks to Mbabane Swallows defensive midfielder Mohamed Kabir, who is set to join a team in the Thailand this week. On the international front, the question is, are Man City in free fall? We will find out this weekend. Nabadlala game up.
Leading headlines on the Eswatini Observer this Friday, drugs shortage, 50% medication in hospitals. Government admits there is a crisis. Suppliers paid 127 million malangeni owed. Kanti kulinye lihamba embili solo ngiyo ingoti yekhumbi lendeke itolo lapha eMbabane. Kuletinye thamba embili free transport to Sibaya from 6 a.m. on Monday morning. Government ready to ban SA poultry products, and Bishop gets 500 emalangeni maintenance from wife.
Yeah. Kutemidlalo Eswatini Observer, we need Princess Lungile Archbishop Lukele. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Former Mbabane Swallows directors Archbishop Begi Lukele and Princess Lungile are seen on those two images there to make that leading headline. Kutemidlalo. Let's get on another one. Rio is a boost for Bull. Capital City Giants Mbabane Highlanders have been boosted by the return of skillful midfielder Lindani Rio Matsenjwa ahead of their MTN Premier League match clash against Ilovo this coming weekend. Gwake impresses Jwaneng Galaxy Scouts. Football gods are about to smile in the direction of Mbabane Swallows' versatile player Gwake Twala, who could soon secure an international move to Botswana's side, Jwaneng Galaxy, in the next transfer window.
All right, looking at your headlines on the Eswatini Daily News this Friday. MP is top farmer at NMC Awards. Kulenyele hamba embili, government acknowledges drugs shortage, working around the clock to remedy crisis. Kulenyele hamba embili, it's a done deal. F&B will continue helping you. More on that story on page 2.
Eswatini Daily News Sports leading headlines this Friday morning. 76 million emalangeni for CAF African Football League winner. The African Football League tournament kicks off in Dar es Salaam on Friday in Tanzania, with reigning African champions Al Ahly facing Simba FC at Benjamin Mkapa Stadium at 6 p.m. Found on page 23 is the full story. Losing starting role at Arsenal is difficult on the international front is the leading headline. Kanzige Lenye Athletics Club demands to be charged alongside Mac Mabuza.
All right, 8 minutes after 6, let's take a break. We're in Tinzabata Swati.
Umsakazo wetithombe iEswatini TV utibophelele kuhlonipha nekulandzela umgomo wetekusakata loweluswe libandla letekuchumana eveni.
Ngephansi kwalomgomo sitimisele kusakata tindzaba tenteya ngaleso sikhatsi tindzaba letide magama laqosheme letitsembekile letitsinza tonke tinhlangothi naletisebaleni
kusukela kutepolitiki, tetemphilo, tekulima, tetinkantolo netemhlaba wonke jikelele siniletsela tindzaba njengoba tinjalo ngaleso sikhatsi letenteka ngaso.
Kanzi kulomsakato siphindze sikulethele lonke luhlobo lwetemidlalo kusuka emidlalweni welibhola letinyawo kuye emidlalweni ledlalelwa ematafuleni kanye naleto letichamuka ngaphandle kwakuleli.
Leti tindzaba lowutiletselwa ngumsakazo wetithombe iEswatini TV.
Mizuzu leshumi bumbene insimbi yesithupha ngwalelo muhla ke sibuke nathi tindzaba tesiswati. Titawube tisabalelene live lonke tincola letetfala sive lesitawube siya esibayeni msombuluko. Lokho ke kuvetwe ngulobuke imicimbi nemikhosi yelive tiko letasekhaya James Vilakati emhlanganweni nebetindzaba ngalesine.
Njengoba imakhosi yelive abidona umhlaba mhla tinge-23 kuyonyanga lesetulu lokutabe kungilo lilanga langemsombuluko evikini lelitako itiko letasekhaya libambe umhlangano nebetindzaba ngalesine lapho khona lobuke imicimbi nemikhosi yelive James Vilakati avetile ukuthi tincola letitfala sive tabe tsecitsisaka anaso silonke live laseSwatini.
Bokunene sawusenze ama-pick point nama-pick point bokunene ngama-pick point lecisa songana sive Swati lesiva kwasebenzisa yonke nemkhosi lebakhona eveni. Angicala ngahobe kunene sifundisa kahobe kunene isipeki emabhasi mabili endvonjeni emabhasi mabili ebuhleni emabhasi mabili kaDokolwako emabhasi mabili emotshane emabhasi mabili embangweni ibhasi yinye embuluzi ibhasi yinye ehokweni ibhasi yinye. Siphinde kunene singena esifundeni saseshiselweni kugege bokunene ibhasi yinye embangweni emabhasi mabili ehluthi ibhasi yinye emathanjeni ibhasi mabili esandleni ibhasi yinye emthambama ibhasi yinye enkwena ibhasi yinye emonti ibhasi yinye. Bokunene sichubeke singena esifundeni sakamanzini bokunene kusekhana emabhasi amabili kalamgabhi ibhasi yinye entondozi ibhasi yinye emavuso training center ibhasi yinye enhlambeni ibhasi yinye embekelweni ibhasi yinye emkhweni ibhasi yinye. Sichubeke bokunene siye esifundeni saselibonjeni kalamasha bokunene kunebhasi yinye etshanini kunebhasi yinye kumalinza ibhasi yinye Estate Park emabhasi mabili mambane amabhasi mabili Mbolenjeni ibhasi yinye nohlupheko ibhasi yinye Nsoko U-Tech ibhasi yinye esipofaneni mabili. Bekunene lamabhasi atababambisene ama-trucks ema-truck letalanza lemphakatsini abisela kuma-pick points.
Litiko letesekhaya ke linxusile kuso sive seMaswati lesibe sibhekise wona emabombo khona esibayini ngemsombuluko ukuthi bagcine sona sikhathi njengoba tinqola letitfala sive titabe tisuka etindzaweni letibekiwe ngensimbi yesithupha ekseni. Etindzabeni Eswatini TV kubika Samkelisiwe Khoza nasikhumbuzo Dlamini eMbabane.
Mapalanelo omkhulu ehhovisini leliphini ilandvuna ngikhulumela uSimasuku ukuthi uhulumende utimisele kwenta ukuthi impilo ibe ngcono kubantwana labahlala bodwa emakhaya lababitwa ke ngema-child headed families. Kanti ke Masuku abekhuluma ekupheleni ngaphansi kwenkhundla yasemotshani umanika ngalokusemthethweni igcinile Masuku indlu lakhelwe lihhovisi leliphini ilandvuna ngikhulu netitini.
Ngaphansi kwelihlelo lokwakhela abantwana lebasele bodwa emakhaya ama-child headed families lehhovisi leliphini ilandvuna selakhele igcinile Masuku wasekupheleni indlu yemakamelo lamabili kulandzela ukuthi bese inetha ahlala ebaleni kulelenye. Mapalanelo omkhulu ehhovisini leliphini ilandvuna umele uSimasuku uthi tiyefika emakhulwini lasithupha tindlu letakhelwa abantwana labahlala bodwa.
Nasisaqala nje bantwana lebesibasita emakhaya live lonke bebangu-167 emakhaya lapho besisita khona. Kodwa ke namhlanje le nombolo seyikhulile. Nangingaveta nje inombolo letikhona lamhla sesisita 624 webantwana velonke.
Mapalane wenhlangano yesiphambano lesibovu Danger Nhlabathi uthi batawuchubeka balibambise lehhovisi leliphini ilandvuna kulomsebenzi lomkhulu nakangaka.
Le ndlu lesihlangene ngayo lamuhla bongosi yindlu leyakhiwe ngekusekelwa ngetimali yinhlangano yemagesi kaNgwane.
Gcinile ke utibongele kakhulu wathi simo besiba medima impela njengoba bekuba lusizi lodva nalinile.
Dumalina kunetha tingubo kunetha timphahla kumele ukuthi libalele ngineke la ngaphandle ngiphila nje leyo mphilo lengasiyo lemnanzi. Kepha bona bakhonile kungisusa kule simo lebankhanze ngiso basi bayigucula lesimo lebankhanze ngiso ngize ngifike kule simo lengiso namuhla.
Kanzeke lokhulumela umphakathi kube nguGood Dlamini.
Kusenta kuhulumende sibona luthando. Sikhuluma ukuthi selihlanyelekile kuye kodwa likahlanyeleke kuye kuphela selihlanyelekile nakulomango.
Kuceliwe ke ukuthi kungabe sekuvela tihlobo noma ke labatawususa lo mntwana kulendlu lesi akhelwe yona ubeseka unikalelwa umbhetse nekudla. Etindzabeni kubika Giyani Msibeng naSimuva Shongwe ekupheleni.
Amalunga eParlamente sekafundziswe ngenchubo yeParlamente pheceleti standing orders. Mapalana weParlamente Benedict Xaba uthi lo mhlangano umcokwa njengoba ke ama-standing orders nemthetho sisekelo welive asisekelo sayo iParlamente.
Njengoba emalunga endlu yabayesikhulu sekafungisiwe nawe emakhosi abusisa yena umcondzisi wezinkulumo khona eParlamente Jabulani Mabuza analo lisekela lakhe madala mhlanga. iParlamente ke ngalesine ibese ibamba umhlangano nawe emalunga endlu yabayesikhulu kwafundisa ngenchubo yeParlamente ke noma ke ema-standing orders kuthi yini lebhekekile kuwo emalunga umsebenzi usachubeka. Mapalane wayo ke iParlamente Benedict Xaba uyachaza ukuthi kulomnyaka losihlanu lotako yini legadzekile kuwo emalunga eParlamente waveta nekuthi kumcoka lokuthi emalunga aqale afundiswe ngayo inchubo yeParlamente ekuqaleni base ngachubeki nawo umsebenzi wekwakhalo nalive.
Sicalela ukuthi vele bahlonishwa bakhone kwati ukuthi yini iParlamente sisaqala ikakhulu iParlamente siyade ukuthi documents angaba khona lamanye lakhona kodwa ayithula amcwa kakhulu kuba ngiyo iconstitution yelive kube futhi ngema-standing orders. Angaze umhlonishwa lwasafungile uthola sowenta into lengaphandle kwama-standing orders. Angibekise nje kunana indzaba yokuthi mawulunga leParlamente kunetindzaba tema-immunities nema-privileges. Uthole ukuthi umhlonishwa unele kufunga nje so titshele ukuthi mina ngingenta noma yini lavele. Nalokunye lokungathi ungathatha kancane lokhu basic kutiphatha kwakhe umhlonishwa ukuthi mase ngilunga leParlamente kubhethi ngitiphathe kanjani even appearance yakho ukuthi ungagcoka kanjani ngikuphi lokuvumelekile eParlamente.
Bahlonishwa bayo iParlamente yelishumi nakubili bafundzisiwe ke kulomhlangano ukuthi nabo banenzima lokufanele ukuthi bayidlale bayiParlamente inzima yekuthuthukisa umnotho welive bashaya imithetho letawubona yena intuthuko nenhlala kahle yawo eMaswati. Kanti iParlamente kubheke ukuthi ibambeke lomunye umhlangano lomkhulu lapho khona emalunga atabafundiswa ngayo inchubo yeParlamente nangemthetho sisekelo welive kuletinye tinhlangothi letikhona letiphathelene nenchubo yayo iParlamente. Etindzabeni Eswatini TV kubika Samkelisiwe Khoza nasikhumbuzo Dlamini ezulwini.
Litiko leti-70 nenhlalakahle yato lithi kuba lunga lenhlangano yemave lasentansi ne-Afrika lebuketa indzaba teti-70 i-Regional Labour Administration Center kuyalisita kakhulu live leSwatini njengoba-ke liyakhona kucecesha ti-70 talo tetikhona kusebenta tindzaba teti-70 ngendlela lefanele. Lokhu-ke kuvetwe ngumabhalane lomkhulu kuleli tiko emakhosini Mndawe uma achaza ngemhlangano walenhlangano lebekadze litiko liwungenele eveni laseLesotho.
Iveke la benefita kuba member ya Arlac la ekhaya sine in-service training le under i-Ministry of Public Service lo lesikwenda ukuthi nesibaka labor ngalo Arlac kusita le in-service training ngoba kusita lama government officials ukuthi ayawu trainer lena eZimbabwe lama courses laba trainer ngolama courses otherwise lokufuneka sengabe siwathola through in-service training. Labor administration, labor law, wonke lokuphathelene naka labor but ifocus yethu ngulaka labor. Ungathi nje labor marketing ngithi lapho. Labor law ngithi lapho. Labor administration ngithi lapho. So we say benefit nje sikhuluma kunema officials every year la hamba ko at least for every year ayahamba aga Arlac. Spend about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, sometimes even a month balega Arlac. So nje sibuka la labanako ngoba basebenta ka labor sibuke kona bese sab enhancer lokunye kuma refresher courses like i-labor law nje thola ukuthi vele ba what lo mthetho but ke bese siyabakhumbuza si ILO International Labour Organization ngemthetho wakhe unanako uma sokuvelela okusha nakhona siyakufaka kule syllabus yabo nakulokusha losokuvelile ti-70 sithi khulumisa kanjena sithi treat kanjena baqashi nanabo kufanele ukuthi ba-behave kanjena situation i-conflict for instance simakhe nje ayi-parastatal yalakhaya nabo laba solo balakithi nabo laba solo ba-benefit labo for conflict resolution and labor disputes as well.
Tibhedlelana mitfolampilo yakuleli titawube setinawo emaphilisi nemithi lashodako ekupheleni kwalenyanga noma-ke nakucala inyanga letako. Embikweni lotfunyelelwe betindzaba lokhulumela hulumende Alpheus Nxumalo uthi inkampani letawuletsa lemithi icale kusebenta mhla lolunye kule nyanga. Kanti-ke kulo mbiko Nxumalo uthi i-Central Medical Stores isakhona kumikisa lokuyihafu 50% waleyo mithi kanye nemaphilisi letsingwa tibhedlela. Uchubeka uthi hulumende uyaconza ukuthi kude kahle emaphilisi ekuvikela malale veva kanye netifo letingathelelwana. Lombiko uveta ukuthi tinkampani letitsengisela hulumende imithi setibhadelwe imali lengu-127 million emalangeni. Kanti-ke tisachubeka nekubhadalwa tikweleti letikhona. Ngakulokunye Nxumalo uvetile kulo mbiko ukuthi lobambe kubangivunankhulu Chief Mgwagwa Gametse sawuhlangene netibhedlela noma-ke nesibhedlela sase-Luke Commission kubuka ukuthi yini lengentiwa kutfolakale tinini letingasekela ngetimali khona-ke site uphinze sikhone kubuyela sisebenze ngalokuphelele. Umtsetfo lomusha lohlose kuvikela kusetjentiswa kwetimali nangetibhedlela tebuchwephesha i-National Payment System Act yamnyaka wa 2023 ucinisa netinhlelo letivikela kulahleka kwetimali sisabhadalana sibe kanye nabosomabhizinisi. Lisekela lalobuke tekubhadalana ebhange lelikhulu kuleli Central Bank of Eswatini Mandla Dlamini uthi lo mtsetfo utawuphinze udlale indzima lenkhulu endzabeni yelihlelo lolusha. Hlelo-ke lekubhadalana lelentiwa ngilo lelibhange libambisene nawo onke emabhange kuleli i-National Payment Switch System.
Ngekusho kwenhlangano yabosomabhizinisi bemdzabo sebavele baqalile kungenisa impahla ngebuningi kuleli kulungiselela emaholide enyanga yengongoni kulomnyaka. Lokhu-ke kusho ukuthi lapha eveni nangaphandle kwelive sekufanele sive nabosomabhizinisi sibhadale nangetindlela tebuchwephesha. Libhange lelikhulu kuleli lithi kutawuba melula masinyane kuphindze kuphephe kubhadalana kulolu hlelo lolusha.
Kulokhu lesenta ngako kwanyalo cishe kube namagiyogiyo lokho kubambelela intuthuko kubambelela ibhizinisi. So nyalo-ke sekutawuba nyalo nje kusho ukuthi kulokhu lesikwendako i-Central Bank ibambisene nalamabhange nalalabanye esithi bona ngemanani bank payment service providers basebenta lokho nje. Uhulumende nangithi nje sowusebentile so wakhile umthetho kulomnyaka nje lo sowukhona-ke umthetho lomusha lo sowubulala loya wona sowucishe sowukhonile kwekuthi unyuse elizinga lokuthi vele lokuphepha kwaletimali kucishe kuyenyuka.
Inhlangano yabosomabhizinisi bemdzabi i-Federation of Eswatini Business Community ithi le ndlela lensha yekusebenta kwetimali itayisita kakhulu ibhizinisi.
Kutawusisita lokho siyibhizinisi ngoba sitha lesikhulu sebhizinisi ngama-delay transition. Lokho kuba inkinga kakhulu. The more i-transition yebhizinisi iba fast, kwenda lokuthi kusebenteke.
Umphathi webhizinisi eSwatini nathi Dlamini uthi amabhizinisi atawuthuthuka ngalolu hlelo.
Lo msebenzi-ke lonto yi-Central Bank lapha ekhaya ngiko sokujabulela kangaka kaloku ukuthi nangibhadala lapha ekhaya le payment yakho seyitawuswitcheka khona lapha ekhaya. Nalo mbhadalo angayithole khona manje kwanyalo uthi nawubhadele uthola after 24 hours ngoba ihambile yokujika yathatha ithoyo yojika eSouth Africa. eSouth Africa bangekho ama-charges ziphinde zibuye lapha ekhaya.
Lena ngilenye indlela libhange lelikhulu lelicinisekisa ngayo ukuthi kusebenta kwetimali kuleli kuba ngiloko lokuphephile. Etindzabeni Eswatini TV kubika Nelisiwe Ndlangamandla nginavuma inkosi inzinisa eMbabane.
Litiko letemvelo lakhala uhlelo lelitawufundzisa kabanti tisebenti talo temphilo kanye netelitiko letemcebo waphansi nemandla ngenzima lefanele kutsi-ke letinzima lababili bayidlale kulwa nekugucugucuka kwesimo selitulu. Kanti kuyakhuluma ngesikhatsi kunemfundza sikolwa ehhotela le-Hilton Garden Inn eMbabane Duduzile Nhlengetwa. Utsi kulesigaba batawuphindze babuke kwekutsi igesi lohlobile ungakhiciteka kanjani.
Njengoba live leSwatini litimbanza kanye nemhlaba ekulweni nekugucugucuka kwesimo selitulu, libandla lebetangoma telitulu lihlangene netinhlangothi letehlukene lokufaka ekhathi betemphilo kanye nelitiko letemcebo waphansi nemandla neletekulima kubuka ukuthi yini leSwatini lelingayenda kulwa nalesimo. Sikhulumisene nemcondzisi welibandla lebetangoma telitulu Duduzile Nhlengetwa losichazele ukuthi ngumiphi imigomo labayendako ucinisekisa lokhu.
Kule project lena sisebenta indzaba yokuthi sisasebenta indzaba yokugucuka kwesimo selitulu sikhone ukuthi sibe nema-policies lakangiwo siphindze sikhone ukuthi sikhone ku-monitor lokho lesikwentako because uma ngabe singaku-monitor lesikwentako angeke sikhone kwati ukuthi sesente kona yini sisayakhona yini emgomweni wethu lesitibekele wona silive. Kusho usile kulo msebenzi lesiwentako siwenta ngekusitwa ngule initiative for climate action and transparency lesiyibita nga-ICAT ubambisene na GHG Management Institute labasilekelelako siphindze sisebente ne-University yethu yala ekhaya yaseSwatini ngaphansi kweliphiko lekuthiwa yi-Center for Sustainable Energy Research.
Live leSwatini lengilelinye lemave lelimikisa lihlelo kamhlabuhlangene lekunciphisa tinfutfu kusuka ku-5% kuya ku-14% ngeminyaka wanga-2030 uma ngabe litfola kahle timali. Etindzabeni Eswatini TV nginginelisiwe Ndlangamandla nginavuma inkosi inzinisa eMbabane.
Kutemidlalo sitaqala nganasi se-rugby. Phumlani Gumetse lokhulumela inhlangano ledlalisa umdlalo we-rugby uthi setivele ticalile-ke tinhlelo tebadlali labancane tekutfutfukisa umdlalo we-rugby eveni kubo babe kanye nakubomake.
Ema-games etfu lesiwadlalisako kulamalanga ngema-games ebantfu labadzala lesithi ma-seniors. I-format labayidlalako badlala ema-10s loku ma-10s aside. Shokuthi i-team ifaka 10 wabadlali nalenye ifake 10. Lama games lanka-ke landzela le program lebesolo sisebenta kiyo le development ngoba besolo sibuke kakhulu ema-under 17 nema-under 19. Nyalo-ke sesisukile-ke kuma-under 17 nema-under 19 sesimuvile saya kubantfu labadzala ngoba le program yethu ayikabuki laba labancane kuphela. Nalaba labadzala nabo kufuna sibendele abo ema-program labatawudlala khona ngoba nakibo still noma ngabe sithi thina sibuke kakhulu i-development nabo imidlalo yabo ikhona ema-games abo ayachubeka. Leke singakucela kokuthi ema-team akahambe abuyela atimisele asemente atilungiselele kusese kuningi lokutako lokukhona lesikulungisile njenge association njengoba njenyalo sicalile program le sesibuke khona kokuthi sifuna kukhetha licembu lelitawukhona kokuthi lihlale litilungiselela makutawuthiwa etindvukweni takhe majaha livele likhandzakale kokuthi seli-ready kumele lalive emidlalweni le uyawukhandza kokuthi siyayidlala ngaphandle noma ngekhathi event Eswatini.
Umqeqeshi welicembu le-Amawele lelidlalela ka-Super League esifundzeni sakaHhohho ngaphansi kwe-Southern League uthi-ke sifiso lesikhulu saleli cembu kuthi badlale kahle bangehli futhi-ke ka-promotion. Dlamini uthi ngekuhamba kwesikhathi batawukwati ukuthi ngumaphi amacembu lakhomba kuba ngetulu kwabo. Kwanyalo iMawele incobe imidlalo lemibili ledlaliwe kule season lesetulo. Kwalo mhle siyatephetha ngaleyo ndzaba leyo sibahlolela imakethe sitawubuya sichubeka nehlelo.
This weekend Eswatini, your official weekend party starter. Tune in for the best of entertainment. We're bringing you the hottest music videos and live studio interviews with your favorite celebrities. We're giving you a front row seat to the latest fashion trends as well as your weekend gig guide. Join us live on social media and call in to send your shout-outs. Be sure to catch our movie segment where we review and give updates on all latest movies. Catch This Weekend Eswatini every Friday at 5:30 p.m. live on Eswatini TV.
Are they yours?
Ngabukela ke washo umkhukhu every Sunday at 3 p.m.
Asimze sinimukele sikuvuselana losanza kusivulela the Friday yatkuthi ngabo lesihlanu sibuka dona indzaba lokubhadalwa kwemthelo evikini leliphelile besikhuluma ngayo indzaba yokusubmitha kwama income tax returns kuma sole traders namhla ke sidaba sibuka kwama kusubmitha kwama income tax returns kwama public officers of a company that is registered nge-VAT. We are joined by Communications Director Eswatini Revenue Service Vusi Dlamini ukuthi sichazela kabandi sakwemukela ngikhosi siyaba ngokuthi ube nathi lomhla eksena. I think my topic last week now this week nekufana nje kancane but namhla sibuke ama public officers kumbe kusichazela nje ukuthi kahle kahle yini public officer.
Asibonga Lulu. Yes, liqiniso ukuthi vele sitawuthi kulamalanga sikhuluma ngayo indzaba yokuletha kwembiko lesithi ngama income tax returns. Now my income tax returns ngesihlukanisa sitawuthi kuletha sikuba amabhizinisi aletha ngetigaba ngekwehlukana kulomnyaka mhlawumbe neminyaka le endlulile mhlawumbe as we go into the future sitawuphindze sishintshe futhi sibiyele kulenye indlela but kulaba lesikhuluma ngabo lamuhla kwecala sikhuluma ngetinkampani la letinkampani lesikhuluma ngato tinkampani lengidawuthi letinenge tato atsito letinkulu kangako tincane such that mhlawumbe atikalibhalisela ihlelo lethu le-VAT lokusho ukuthi atikawubhalisela umthelo we-VAT saseke sesithi mhlawumbe kufuna sibanike i-deadline lehlukile kunaleto tinkampani letibhalisele i-VAT in relation to kubhadala umthelo we-income tax. Umbuto wakho-ke ukuthi in public officer kusho ukuthi nasithi public officer sikhuluma ngoba na ukhuluma ngenkampani uthi umthetho wekwakha inkampani it's a person on its own but then kuze kukhona kusebenzeka kwetindzaba temthelo kahle bese kudzingeka umuntu a natural person. So in this case nasithi public officer sikhuluma nga the natural person nangabekisa asengithi una company A wena which is expected to submit returns but we can't talk to the company as it were because a company is not a real human being. The company needs to then appoint nakulesetting public officer kusho ukuthi ngumuntu lo responsible for tindzaba temthelo kuleyo ngaphana.
Okay, so ushito ukuthi bona bane deadline lehlukile and I also recall ukuthi last week you said a deadline lama sole traders is the 30th of November this year. Ingabe nasibuka I deadline yalama public officers yona inini?
I deadline yaleti inkampani leti ke noma ke lawo ma public officers lesibheke ukuthi alethelo yombiko yona ke imhla ka 31 October kusho ukuthi sinema deadlines lamathathu kunalo 31 October ngilasibheke khona ukuthi laba bosoma business laba noma ke leti tinkampani noma labo public officer laba responsible for leto tinkampani leti bhalisele umthelo we-VAT i-deadline yabo ngilo mhla ka 31 October sibheke ukuthi babe bayiletha leyo mbiko ingakapheli lenyanga.
Okay, so nasibuka i-compliance ngathi lokuthi vele it's one of the things nje vele lenihambise embili as baka ERS lokuthi vele lokundlana nje namhla vele niphusha yona indzaba ye-compliance nasibuka dona leti inkampani leti tiyakhona ukubhadala kahle umthelo wato.
I think again here Lulu this is almost similar kuleta last week lesikhulume ngawo business last week le level of compliance isangakafiki kuleli zinga lesifike kufise ukuthi ifike ku ingephasi kwa 50% and siyaye sifise ukuthi esicubeka sifundzisa batawukhona ukuthi labo bosomabhizinisi balethe imbiko babhadala umthelo ngesikhathi siyabakhuthaza vele ukuthi abende konke lokufanele bakwende ngekuthi basilethele imbiko ngesikhathi.
Okay, so bona ama documents abo ingabe yini lekubhekile nje ukuthi ebese ilungile ngaphambi kwalo 31st October la kumele ukuthi bayilethe elihambisana nalama returns?
Because these are companies siyaye sibheke ukuthi kufuna balethe ema financial statements nabo umthetho wetinkampani ke ukuthi ama financial statements kufuna abe auditiwe kusho ukuthi siyaye audited financial statements balethe logo bese baletha ke naleyo ngidawuthi naloyo income tax return noma ke lelo form lelisho ukuthi basebenza njani but as you know nasikhuluma kulamalanga vele tonke into stenda online so sibheka ukuthi konke kufuna basilethele through our digital platform lesithing e-tax.
Speaking of ukuthi vele nenda team for online kubani bambisa yini vele mhlambe tinkampani tiyanibambisa yini senibambisa yini ukuthi vele nyalo seni paperless senizama ukuthi vele tonke team for tendiyo digital?
I think though there would still be those labanga khona kwenda kahle ngekuthi mhlawumbe baba nalawo ma challenges but a lot of them labalethako vele baletha online. I would say everyone lo lethako uletha online because vele sekude lenye indlela yokuletha imibiko ngaphandle kokuletha online. Lesiyeke sikugcizelele ukuthi kulabo labangakhona kutendela mhlawumbe basemakhaya noma basemahhovisi abo siyaye siba encourage ukuthi abete ema service centers ethu so that isitobacathuthisa sibakhombise la mshineni kusho ukuthi siyabakhombisa ngoba sinawo lama service centers ethu la sinalama computers khona where they will be able to do these things. So siba encourage ukuthi bete but if they are comfortable kukwenda emakhaya siyabagcugcutela ukuthi bakwende nakhona emakhaya. Siphumile ke futhi siya etinzaweni ngekwehlukana nabatawuhlola nje emaphepheni ba-check nakubo website yethu naku Facebook siyasho lokho ukuthi siya kuphi nini mhlawumbe ngekwehlukana ngilapho khona ezisiphumile sibakhombisa khona ukuthi nangabe kufanele ukuthi ulethe lo mbiko ufaka kanjani na ufaka kuleyo computer yakho.
I think solo ufikile nje Nkosi solo nje waqala mhlambe this year kudala ihlelene solo ayikhuluma indzaba ukuthi mangabe kunaleyo nkampani namabhizinisi lengakhona mhlambe solo kubhadala kahle umthelo ekhulekile ukuthi ide emahofisini enito mhlambe kukwentiwe leso sivumelwano ingabe solo saqala nje Nkosi kuba khona vele mhlambe lesingathi bayavela betohlala phansi bakhulumisane nani kuboniswana ukuthi mhlambe leso sikweletu lesikhona bangasibhadala kanjani kukhona nini babonako beda njengoba usho nje ukuthi vele deadline yalaba ngo-October dokhanze ukuthi abanye vele solo bayimithi le deadline bese sekuba nama penalties nama interest kukhona yini mehluko nobonako nje e-service center.
Ngidawuthi maybe we do have quite a number la ukhanza ukuthi bayeda but ukhanza ukuthi labanye sebeda after the effect ukhanza ukuthi umuntu so utange ukuthi akakawulethi lo mbiko kanzi phela I would imagine ukuthi you anticipating ukuthi uyayadi le deadline ukuthi itawuba nini so nangabe uyadi deadline ukuthi inini kufanele ukuthi usheshe usho singatomangala nathi ukuthi hawu so ushonephi ngoba sibheke ukuthi kufuna ngabe usilethele umbiko ngalesikhathi lesithide ngicabanga ukuthi kungumgomo noma ngabe ngikuphi lolu ukuthi nangabe ungeke uyimithe i-deadline noma ke ngibekise ngasesikolweni nangabe umfana wakho angeke akhone kuya esikolweni uyaye ubike esikolweni ukuthi hey umfana angeke akhone kuya esikolweni lamuhla nganasi sizathu nanasi mhlawumbe nangabe uyadibeka leto sizathu nalapha sibheke ukuthi kube exactly the same otherwise ukhanza ukuthi ngeke sadi vele ukuthi akwawuletha umbiko bekwende njani ukhanza ukuthi so after the effect which we don't quite encourage city water before and make us know where are the challenges.
Bese kuba nama penalties
nama interest naso uphutile vele utawukhanza ukuthi lawo ma penalties nema interest sakatawuba khona kanze if you have come to us well in advance siyakhona ukuthi sikhulumisana ukuthi singakunika lelinye ilanga vele asisakuthathi lokho ukuthi sitawusho nje mhlawumbe simemetela ukuthi everyone utawuba ne-extended deadline because ukhanza ukuthi sekwenda nale compliance level yethu bese iba pass sithi nangabe unaleyo challenge i-deadline ibekiwe ngomhla ka-31 October but if you have a challenge come to us early enough so that we can note that and then agree how we are going to progress forward.
Okay, so nihamba nifike phi nje Nkosi ningi IRS kwanze ukuthi lo mvuvelo unalesikweledi so nama penalties so nama interest solo yakweleda sekhamba iminyaka ni bese nifika phi naye lo mvulo kanti ngalani business yakhe solo yaqhubeka noma company yakhe solo iyaqhubeka.
Maybe we should come here some days so sitoyichaza yonke le process yethu for a good driver i-compliance ukuthi ihamba kanjani but it's a basic process here ukuthi kubheke ukuthi ulethe imbiko njengoba sikhuluma lamhla 31 October deadline yalabo laba registered for VAT for income tax but nangabe kusho ukuthi awukawulethi loyo mbiko siyakukhumbuta ukuthi bekubheke ukuthi usilethele umbiko ngelanga lelithide ungakasiphenduli ke lapho mhlawumbe sekushayele noma sekuthumela leyo milayeto siphinde sikukhumbute futhi ngikhumbula kahle ukhanza sitakukhumbuta sigcine sikukhumbuta kathathu but the next step after that vele nangabe sikubona ungaveli you will find ukuthi the tone of the correspondence will change because sesi-assume ukuthi vele solo uyabaleka which at the end of the day umthetho wethu uyazivumela ukuthi the issues can go all the way tigcine tifike la sigcine sisenda nakule sithi ukuthi vele sigcine sithi leyo business yakho kusho ukuthi ayikhoni kubambisa live ngekubhadala umthelo sesenda i-enforcement nangabe ngayibeka ngaleyo ndlela last ukhanza ukuthi vele sesigcine sifikisana khona nasedingandolo.
We have had
many cases. We have had a few cases where sigesa figure up, though we don't want to talk about it because we always say it's not what we want. I mean, songe city wonke soma business local event aka contribute whatever they are supposed to contribute from a tax perspective.
All right, thank you so much. Sibonga kakhulu Nkosi. Lastly nje ma contact details enu ngabe baxhumana nani kanjani?
Inombolo tethu it's 24064050 noma ke bangasithenza ku WhatsApp number yethu let's 76063735.
Right, sibonga kakhulu Dlamini mbukeliso TV ukuthi deadline engumhla ka 30 October kulomnyaka lwesetulu uyalabo bema public offices bedinkampani leti registele VAT asibahlela tema ke sesitaba yasichubeka.
Hello everyone and welcome to the show. You know the vibes, it's the beat down. The time is 8 p.m. It's time for you to relax, sit back, relax, and enjoy the music videos that I got for you.
Moving no direction, like it's a calling. Feel alive in the middle of nowhere. Shake the ground and burn the air. So yeah, yeah. You don't have to hold back for anything or anyone. Just on this.
Eswatini Lifestyle is all about inspiration, drive, and swag. Eswatini Lifestyle is informative and fun while covering all aspects of life, be it people, places, and trends in the kingdom of Eswatini. We got you covered. The focus is on the quality of life. Eswatini Lifestyle will spark your interest. Catch Eswatini Lifestyle every Friday at 7:30 p.m. on Eswatini TV, Sibugo Semaswati.
This weekend, Eswatini, your official weekend party starter. Tune in for the best of entertainment. We're bringing you the hottest music videos and live studio interviews with your favorite celebrities. We're giving you a front row seat to the latest fashion trends as well as your weekend gig guide. Join us live on social media and call in to send your shout-outs. Be sure to catch our movie segment where we review and give updates on all latest movies. Catch This Weekend Eswatini every Friday at 5:30 p.m. live on Eswatini TV.
Asimze sinemukele sakuvusela nawe losandzako sivulela sivetile maskene ehlelweni ukuthi sitabe sixoxisana na Seth Maphalala lo programs manager wayo inhlangano iindalo Eswatini. Inhlangano ke lena lebuke tona tindzaba teknakekelwa kwemvelo kule mpelasongo lesiyakiyo batabe bane environmental awareness campaign kumaphungwane zama nje kufundzisa sive noma kwanzisa lwate esiveni sakumaphungwane ngebumcoka bekunakekela imvelo. Sinokhulumisana naye kuva ukuthi ngabe vele mhlambe baze bende lona msebenzi ngutiphi tikhala labatibonile kuleyo ndzawo. Inhlangano ke lena letinde khona esifundeni saselibonjeni sekuvusele eMaphalala siyaba ukuthi benathi lomhla ekseni njengoba sengivetile nje ukuthi vele nine kakhulu nibuke tona tindzaba tekunakekelwa kwemvelo. Kungaba kuva nje ukuthi ingabe tikhala tini nje lena tibona nezenisungule inhlangano yalo hlobo lena tibona nje mhlambe lelibonjeni ngoba ni lelibonjeni mosivele. So sifuna kuva nje ukuthi ngabe intiphi letikhala lenabona ukuthi vele kumele nikuthini tigcwalise nanzisa lwati nifundzisa sive ngekunakekela imvelo.
Siyabonga angikuvusele nawe sesi. Ngicala ngekuthi nje umsebenzi wethu u7 lonke kodwa ke lomnengi wawo siucilise elibonjeni ngenzabe ukuthi libombo lunemvelo lehlukile lejulile lenda ukuthi sifise lokuthi siyibambise lemimango ifaka isandla lesingathi sibandi ekuyongena. So umsebenzi wethu lomkhulu lesiwenda elibonjeni nje ukuthi sifundzisane nalemimango sakhela emisebenzini leminye lecalwe ngohulumende leminye lecalwe ngiletinye tinhlangano khanza ukuthi sekunetikhala ke lesibonako kuloku nje isikhala lesikhulu lesibonile ukuthi lalabasha le sonke sitawushiya kibo live basengadi kabandi ngalemvelo. so wonke lo msebenzi lezi esiwendile nalabantu labadzala nasengcathini sitawukhanza ukuthi sowendela kaphasi uma singaka engage labasha ngibekise nje ukuthi in the next 10 years umuntu lona 14 nyalo utabe enda tincumo letiyitsindzako imvelo so kudzinga ukuthi ngaleso sikhathi abesekanalo lo lwati lwekuthi tincumo tini lekumele ukuthi attend so sendataba kade ukuthi simane sihlangabetane nabo kusese early kuze ukuthi likusasa lalelive ikakhulu nasiphathelene netemvelo limane lichakaza.
Ingabe mhlambe nathi sakhulumisana nje nabo bamflabasha ngoba ngiyakholelwa ukuthi nihlangane kuba khona lawo ma community engagements mhlambe lamanye leni wendako bayabathini nje manikhuluma ngemvelo nje bushido nje ukuthi vele lwade lincane kakhulu kukhona nani lokho lokuncane mhlambe labakwati noma vele mhlambe umsebenzi losanimele usemkhulu kakhulu ngenzabe nje kubafundzisa ngayo kunakekela kwemvelo.
Wona umsebenzi omkhulu kodwa ke siyayibona lenhlase lethi labantwana labadalwa ngithi bacabanga ngendlela lehlukile lokusho ukuthi kungenteka kuchamuke ama solutions lehlulekile thina kwaqabanga lokusho ukuthi we are expecting innovation from them ngiko ke sithi ngakuthi siyendele information ibe available kiko but lokunye lesikubonile ukuthi kulama engagements bancane labantu labasha so ngiko sithi maybe asesishintshe lendlela lesenda ngayo kunekuthi sibabidela umhlangano eholeni noma emphakathini asesiyele kule tindlu labathandzako njengokuthi nje kulo mgcibelo sikhulumisa tindzaba temvelo kodwa sifake ekhatsi imidlalo lokuyinfo abantu labasha labayikhuthalelako so sithi kunekuthi silibale ukuthi asigucula indlela labenda ngayo maybe asesimeche lendlela labenda ngayo ukuze ukuthi kutohambisana lo mlayeto wethu nalendlela labayitsingako.
Okay, so lelibonje njengoba I think so lo niyavet lokuthi vele kakhulu nivakashela tindzawo letiningi Eswatini but nibuka kakhulu libombo ingabe letinkinga letendekalako nje lentibonako nje letitsikabeta emvelo khona libonjeni kuba yini vele kahle
tinkulu kakhulu ikakhulu iCovid yasendela info lembi ngemvelo ngekuthi bantu lebebokhanza ukuthi banako lokuncane labakudlako ngenza bekuthi bayasebenta iCovid yavala konke lokho labantu laba batikhanza basemakhaya batikhanza sebeteke nemisebenzi liswati ke lati ukuthi kuze ukuthi lithole kudla kufuna lingene ehlathini so ngibo laba sebafuna tithelo ngibo laba sebafuna kudla tsite noma ngibo sebayalima so iCovid yasendela lokho sokwenta ukuthi sikhanze ukuthi le impact yako emvelweni seyenyukile kanzi itolo before iCovid bantu bebasebentela banawo lama alternative means of income so nayifika iCovid yehlisa lokho seba relaya kakhulu ke emvelweni so ngiko ke lo sekusenda ukuthi nathi sidinga ukuthi sithi step up lo msebenzi lesiwendako ngiko sesithi hayi asengetele tinhlelo ngoba itasiphelela lemvelo.
Yeah. Ingabe niyabhekana netimo nje lifaya ekhathi ukushiswa kwamahlathi kugedvuka kwemhlaba khona ngalapha ibonjeni
kakhulu ngito letinye inkinga letikhona njengokuthi nje umuntu akamani nje alishisa ehlathi kodwa unesizathu sekuthi either ufuna ukuthi kube nelihlungu lelitawuwondla tinkomo noma ubone tinyosi lapha ufuna kuyotikhipha so uyambalekela umlilo noma kukhona lokuthide la kufunako lokuhlumako so letizathu uyadibona kodwa ke sekudzinga ukuthi sifundzise ukuthi nawudzinga kusebenzisa umlilo yini tintfo lekumele utubuke kuze ukuthi ungabe sewona imvelo umlilo nekuthi ke vele sinayo lenkinga kusukela nga2015 nesomiso lesikhulu tinkomo lebetilapha ehlanzeni tasiswa tenyukele libonjeni so setinenge leto tinkomo lokusho ukuthi sekungenteka kube naleyo ngodi ukuthi titapcetsa lo tshani bese kuyacala kuyagedvuka sesiyacala siyadibona leto timpawu kuze ukuthi singafiki lapho sesidzinga ukuthi sifake emandla nemali kakhulu yekugedvuka sibona ukuthi ingcono sesente i-prevention kwamanje ngoba lokho ngeke kusidulele kakhulu. So lokho kufaka ekhathi ukuthi sifundisane nje nalaba limako nalaba lusa tinkomo labafuyile ukuthi yini taba labangatenda leti tawuvimba ukuthi size sifike lapho sesinetindvonga leti simangalisako. So ilubombo linato leto tinkinga leto nekuthi nje lubombo liwude imifula lapha eTulu elibonjeni nje sidi imifula. So bantfu badle matete. So inkinga lenkulu yabo ukuthi nase kunencumbi yetinkomo nakufika busika tingene eteteni. So sekufuna ukuthi siyikhulumise lendzaba ukuthi leli tete limcuka kwani ikakhulu ukuphathelana netinkomo ukuphathelana nempilo yemuntu nekuphathelana ukuthi nase kufike somiso sitawathola kuphi manje. So letinkinga leti njengaleto na ungakacabangisisi uyakhanza ukuthi setiyakukhanza kanzi bongatilungiselela.
So usho ukuthi niyadvakashela etinye tindzawo besides isifundvo saselibonjeni nakhona is it the same problem nendzawo yabamhlabasha noma tindzawo tihlukile nje tinkinga takhona?
Yes, lendzaba yenza yalabasha ngiyona siyihambisa embili ngalokuthi nasikhuluma nge-sustainable development lo sustainable usho ukuthi likusasa ngilapho la kungena khona abantu labasha. So usho ukuthi thina sekufuna ukuthi lendvuko sale siyinika labanye labatawukhona kugijima babe nemandla babe nelwati futhi babe ne-innovation enough ukuthi isolve letinkinga letisehlulile thina. So lelo sikwendako ke njengenhlangano sendela ukuthi send i-groundwork ukuthi belula ukuthi bakhona kusuka khona bayembili. So sibahambisa embili bantu labasha but ke nalokufundzisa nje ukuthi sikhumbude eMaswati ngoba eMaswati lendzaba yemvelo ayayadi. eMaswati nakathi liveli yengcayelwa bekasho kona lokho ukuthi udiphatha kahle emvelweni noma uyabonwa noma ubonwa indlela lokufuna wende ngayo ufuna wende ukuthi nakufika lomunye abone ukuthi bekuhamba liswati lelihlonipha imvelo lelitihloniphako futhi lelatiko ukuthi yini lekumele uyende emvelweni.
Okay. So this weekend nitabe nine tournament mos nitabe nibambe tournament njengoba shito nje ukuthi vele nifuna kwenda lemidlalo lekuyimvelo ethandwa ngibo bantfu labasha kuma nje kusichazela ukuthi kutabe kwentekani kahle kahle kude nalabanye abantu labasha abatawuta bayingcenye lomsebenzi.
Yes, sine soccer tournament soccer tournament yethu ehlukene kabili. Kune yabosisi njengoba wathi ukuthi izinto zihamba kanjalo. Kune yalabaduna nelabasikati kutawucala yabo bosisi bashayane ema-games lamabili bese kulandzele emajaha ashayana nawo ema-games lamabili kwendiwe ema-pick teams cishe yonke inkundla yakumaphungwane angithi sigods noma umphakathi ngisho njalo. So ngalokuthi maphungwane ngiyena mkhulu elibonjeni sithi asicale ngaye sitabe sesiyewelela kulele tinye tigods. So lemidlalo siyibuka ukuthi lamikhathini sitabe sifundzisana sikhulumisana sibutana imibuto labakhona kuyiphendvula ukhanza ukuthi bakhona lokuncane labakutholako bese kuthi labo labatawushayana ensimini yekudlala kukhona nako labatakuthola lesibeke eceleni. Ngibekise nje ukuthi emajaheni sibeke eceleni 10,000 emalangeni bese kuthi kubosisi sibeke 5,000 emalangeni kuze ukuthi loyo lo winako kuba encourage nje ukuthi nakusasa nasiphindze sibuya mhlambe sesitabe sesifaka lokunye ngoba imidlalo minengi nemisebenzi minengi mhlambe ngeke silibale kubuka ibhola kuphela. Kodwa ngalokuthi nelisasasa nyalo sithi asicale ngayo ukuze ukuthi sibabuthe bonke.
Yeah, so ngaleyo ndlela ezibadlala ngala bayafunza so vele nani kuyanilungela kanjalo.
Yes, ezibadlala nge-half time sitabe sikhulumisana ngato lezindzaba sibutana imibuto kuba nemidlalo nalaba tawufuna kusi-entertainer kukhona simemile nalabanye boza kwethu labangajabula ukuthi nabo bendlulisa imilayeto tsite kuze ukuthi bativale leto tikhali.
Okay, cala ngaphansi isikhathi.
Nakusa nje sicala nga7 ngalokuthi mina inganyana lemidlalo.
Okay, alright, sibakhulu baba Maphalana Mbukeli. Sothi vele ukuthi kutabe kunemkhankaso lapha wekwanzisa lwati ngato tindzaba tekunakekela imvelo enkundleni yakumaphungwane kusasa kusukela ngensimbi yesikhombisa. Kanti ke bonke abantfu labasha bamenyiwe ukuthi babe yingcenye yalo msebenzi. Asibahlole temakethe nasibuya sibuka tindzaba tesingisi.
We at Eswatini Television Authority are committed to observing the Eswatini Communication Commission's Broadcasting Code of Conduct.
Under the code, we are committed to broadcast news that is current, free from hate speech, accurate, balanced, and fair.
From politics to business, health, agriculture, courts, and global news, we bring you the latest updates as they happen, when they happen.
We cover all the sporting codes from the football pitch to the chessboards.
This is Eswatini TV News.
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. Discover just how far you'll go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience in the kingdom.
Welcome back. The Ministry of Home Affairs has announced that there will be free transport for Emaswati who will be attending Sibaya next week Monday. Chief Celebrations Officer James Vilagati said this during a press briefing held at the Ministry of Home Affairs offices in Babane.
Bokunene sawusenze ama-pick point. Nama-pick point bokunene ngama-pick point leqisa songana sive Swati. Lesiva kwasebenzisa yonke nemkhosi lebakhona eveni. Angicala ngahobe kunene sifundisa kahobe kunene isipiki emabhasi mabili endvonjeni emabhasi mabili ebuhleni emabhasi mabili kaDokolwako emabhasi mabili emotshane emabhasi mabili embangweni ibhasi yinye embuluzi ibhasi yinye ehokweni ibhasi yinye siphunze kunene singena esifundeni saseshiselweni kugege kunene ibhasi yinye embangweni amabhasi mabili ehluthi ibhasi yinye emathanjeni ibhasi mabili esandleni ibhasi yinye emthambama ibhasi yinye enkwena ibhasi yinye emonti ibhasi yinye bokunene siqhubeke singena esifundeni sakamanzini kamanzini bokunene kusekhana emabhasi amabili kalamgabhi igasi yinye entondozi ibhasi yinye emavuso training center ibhasi yinye enhlambeni ibhasi yinye embekelweni ibhasi yinye emkhweni ibhasi yinye siqhubeke bokunene siye esifundeni saselibonjeni kalamasha bokunene kunebhasi yinye etshanini kunebhasi yinye kumalinza ibhasi yinye Estate Park amabhasi mabili mambane amabhasi mabili Mbolenjeni ibhasi yinye nohlupheko ibhasi yinye Nsoko U-Tech stroke U-Tech ibhasi yinye esipofaneni mabili bekunene lamabhasi atababambisene ama-trucks ama-truck latalanza lemphakathini abisela kuma-pick points.
The Principal Secretary in the Deputy Prime Minister's Office, Melusi Masuku, says the government of Eswatini is determined to support and better the lives of children from child-headed homes. Masuku was speaking at Egupeleni area under Mochane constituency during the house handover to Kusile Masuku.
Under the child-headed household farming program under the Deputy Prime Minister's Office, the Deputy Prime Minister's Office has built a two-bedroom house for Kusile Masuku of Egupeleni area, who previously lived in a stick and mud house which was in a dilapidated state. The Principal Secretary in the Deputy Prime Minister's Office, Melusi Masuku, speaking when handing over the house to Kusile, says when they started the project, there was just over 100 child-headed families around the country.
Namhlanje le nombolo seyikhulile nangingaveta nje inombolo letikhona lamhla sesita 624 webantwana velonke.
The Secretary General of the Baphalali Eswatini Red Cross Society, Denjan Hlabati, says through the help of other stakeholders, they will assist the Deputy Prime Minister's Office under this program.
Yindlu leyakhiwe ngekusekelwa ngetimali yinhlangano yemagesi kaNgwane.
Hlabati says this house has been built through the help of the Eswatini Electricity Company, which has built 5 other houses for the needy. The beneficiary, Kusile Masuku, who lives with her 2 children, says she lacked a million words to thank the Deputy Prime Minister's Office. She says she still cannot believe her eyes.
Kusile
says unlike others who would pray for a rainy weather now and again, she prayed for the opposite because of the condition of her previous house, as they would be up until the rain is over. Koti Dlamini spoke on behalf of the Egupeleni Chiefdom.
Sikhuluma ukuthi selihlanyelekile kuye kodwa likahlanyeleke kuye kuphela selihlanyelekile nakulomanga.
Dlamini asked that no family member must then claim the house to be his or hers or kick Kusile out because they were not there during her struggle. For Eswatini TV News, I'm Kian Msibi with Smova Shongwe, Ekupheleni.
The Parliament of Eswatini has oriented members of Parliament on standing orders and the country's constitution. The Clerk to Parliament, Benedict Klaba, says these 2 documents are the backbone of the operations of Parliament.
Following the swearing-in of the members of the 12th Parliament and the Speaker of the House, Jabulani Mabuza, together with the Deputy Speaker, Madala Mhlanga, being blessed by their Majesties, the Parliament of the Kingdom of Eswatini hosted a workshop for the newly sworn-in honourable members of the August House on the current standing orders.
The basics for the 12th Parliament and what we need to get, it is the Constitution and the standing orders. We are here now currently then orienting them about the standing orders, which really clarifies how should an MP conduct himself, whether in the House or also in the public. Also, they need to understand the role of the importance of the Constitution and the importance of the standing orders. So we feel these are the basics that they need to get. And also the code, the dress code of an MP, the appearance of an MP to the public. So this will help the MPs just to gain the basics.
The Parliament is yet to host an induction for the 12th Parliament. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Samgal Suekoza with Sikombozo Dlamini Ezulwini.
Being a member of the African Regional Labour Administration has benefited the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, as many of its employees have been trained on labour laws, which will be beneficial for the public service. This was said by the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, Makosini Mdawe.
Last week, Eswatini attended the African Regional Labour Administration meeting of the Committee for Senior Officials of Labour and Employment in Lesotho. The Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, Makosini Mdawe, says despite deliberating on issues of policy, they also touched on how the programs offered by the labour organization can be strengthened.
Sibuka lalabanako ngoba basebenta ka labor sibuke kona bese siyabenhancer lokunye kuma refresher courses like i-labor law nje thola sivele bawadi lomthetho but ke bese siyabakhumbuza si ILO International Labour Organization ngemthetho wakhe unanako uma sokuvelele okusha nakhona siyakufaka kule syllabus yabo nakulokusha losokuvelile tisebenzi sikhulumisa kanjena sithi treata kanjena baqashi nanabo kufanele ba-behave kanjena ku-situation i-conflict for instance simakhe nje ayi-parastatal yalakhaya nabo labasolo balakithi nabo labasolo ba-benefit labo for conflict resolution and labor disputes as well.
The principal secretary says every year Eswatini sends officers for short courses at the Regional Labour Administration with the intent to capacitate them on labour laws so that they can be better equipped with information to work on labour conflicts. For Eswatini TV News, Nelson Ngamandla, Muzimkonda Mbabane.
The National Payment System Act 2023 will ensure safe and swift payments in the banking and non-banking sector. The Deputy Director of Operations at the Central Bank of Eswatini, Mandla Dlamini, says the act complements well the newly introduced National Payment Switch system, which is being rolled out in the financial sector.
As the business community and eMaswati prepare for the festive season, this means more transactions, some even online in-country and outside Eswatini. The Central Bank of Eswatini says systems are implemented to ensure safety during transactions in the financial sector.
The Central Bank of Eswatini actually is working hand in hand with the industry, that is both the banking institutions and the other non-bank payment service providers, to roll out or to implement or to build a switch in Eswatini that will process all domestic transactions. The government of Eswatini has been able at least to repeal the old National Clearing and Settlement Systems Act of 2011 and put in place a National Payment Systems Act 2023.
Chairperson of the Federation of Eswatini Business Community, Johannes Manigela, says the payment switch will drive high business performance and profits.
Kutawusisita lokho siyibhizinisi ngoba sitha lesikhulu sebhizinisi ngama-delay transition lokho kuba inkinga kakhulu. The more i-transition yebhizinisi iba fast kwenda lokuthi kusebenteke.
Business Eswatini's Chief Executive Officer Nathi Dlamini says this new payment system will strengthen their position in the market.
It's a game changer in terms of conducting transactions in this kingdom. We think it is timely. We have been bemoaning the absence of the system for many, many years. And today it looks like we are just in the cusp of realizing the dream. And it is therefore against that backdrop that we'd like to really praise Central Bank.
The payment switch is Central Bank's way of ensuring safety for eMaswati whilst doing transactions and also increasing operational possibilities for businesses. For Eswatini TV News, Nelson Ngamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Mbabane.
Eswatini is currently implementing the second phase of the Enhanced Transparency Framework supported by Climate Action Transparency and the United Nations Office for Project Services. Speaking at the project's inception workshop at the Hilton Garden in Babane, the Deputy Director of Eswatini Meteorological Services, Kusile, says this phase is a continuation of the first phase, which focused on adaptation in health and water sector.
As the world continues to face complex challenges that negatively affect human well-being as a result of climate change, Eswatini has not been spared. The Eswatini Meteorological Services has met different stakeholders to find ways to strengthen the country's resilience to climate shocks and find innovative policy solutions.
On the energy sector, we found that there is need to strengthen our work by coming up with a policy for bioenergy, because it is one of the areas that we can use to reduce emissions for the country while providing sustainable energy. We also going into the adaptation sector, where we are concentrating mainly on health and water. These are sectors that are affected by climate change, so we also need to be able to monitor how we're building our resilience, in particular with reference to what we committed in the NDCs.
Eswatini has committed to reducing gas emissions by up to 14% by the year 2030. This is contained in the nationally determined contributions which the country submitted to the United Nations last year. For Eswatini TV News, Nelson Langamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Mbabane.
The MTN Foundation has financially supported 5 youth empowerment institutions with 950,000 Malangini. The MTN Foundation says they will continue supporting them financially in their programs.
The 4 youth empowerment institutions that were financially supported are SEDCO, Junior Achievement, Youth Enterprise Revolving Fund, and Young Heroes. The main objective of the MTN Foundation is to see growth in young people and their businesses. The MTN Head of Corporate Services, Sibosiso Nhleko, says they are determined to support the youth in the country.
These are organizations that work with young people, they empower young people, they focus on entrepreneurship and skills development, which is an area we're very much passionate about as the MTN Foundation, which is youth empowerment. We have had today testimonies from young people who have been positively impacted by these programs. And we continue to support young people, and we look forward to continuing to partner with these organizations.
Ketu Mhlanga thanked on behalf of the beneficiaries.
For us, what we appreciate with MTN is the fact that they've noted that we shouldn't leave out the youth. The youth are the ones who are going to drive this country. And by using the entrepreneurial aspect of it, we know that SMEs are the ones that drive the economy. They create employment.
They say they have seen the number of young people entering these programs grow, thus the need for more funding. For Eswatini TV News, I'm Kian Msibi with Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Ezulwini.
The National Disaster Management Agency has encouraged Maswati to ensure structural integrity of their houses now that the summer season has begun. NDMA Communications Officer Wandile Mavuso said this during an interview with Eswatini TV.
Siyaxwayisa ukuthi isivo samaswati asilungele sicheke tindlu tato ukuthi tilungele yini ukuthi tingamelana netimvula letawuna ngemandla nekwekuthi ke asikwenda ijwayelo lokuthi sihlole nje tindlu tethu ukuthi atide ama cracks yini.
As the country had started receiving first rains, marking the beginning of the summer season, the Maswati must ensure structural integrity of their houses, especially the thick and mud structures. The Maswati must also ensure that their roofing is at proper standards to withstand extreme weather conditions such as heavy rains and storms. We also encourage the Maswati to refrain from crossing overflowing rivers.
More than 1 million people have fled their homes in the Gaza Strip as Israel airstrikes continue to pound the Palestinian enclave.
Palestinians desperately dig through the rubble with their bare hands in a race against time to save these children trapped in their own bedrooms. The main residential building in Jabalia refugee camp in northern Gaza has been completely destroyed by an Israeli airstrike. Those who were lucky enough to survive will now have to find another home. Many in northern Gaza have already fled after evacuation orders by Israel, but any hopes they had of safety elsewhere didn't last for long.
We're from Gaza City. They told us to come to the south, so we came to the south. And airstrikes got worse in the south. Nowhere is safe in Gaza. You have to be ready to die.
More than 1 million people have fled their homes. Khan Yunis in the south, where many displaced people have been sheltering, has been hit by several airstrikes. This refugee camp has been completely flattened. Israel says it's targeting the militant group Hamas, who they say hides among civilians. In Rafah, there's a glimmer of hope for civilians after the United States struck a deal to have humanitarian aid delivered by Egypt through the crossing point. Though even here has not been spared. This man lost his daughter and grandchildren in an airstrike. The Israeli military said it killed a top Palestinian militant.
My daughter was not a militant. This was not her war. She was sleeping peacefully in her house with the children.
20 trucks are preparing to enter Gaza through the Rafah crossing. US President Joe Biden says aid will stop if it is taken by Hamas.
As Hamas and Israel continue to trade blame over the bombing of the Al Ali hospital in Gaza City, calls are mounting for an independent international inquiry into the devastating attack.
Hamas and Israel trade blame for the bombing of the Al Ahli Baptist Hospital in Gaza, and calls mount for an independent inquiry. The likelihood of that happening, however, is right now quite low. The Palestinian Authority on Wednesday called for an international inquiry into the attack on the hospital, while laying the blame squarely at the hands of Israel. Theoretically, there are legal bodies in place that can handle an inquiry, even if, as a former International Criminal Court prosecutor told France 24, it is of secondary importance right now.
The UN has a commission of inquiry which is currently investigating in Palestine. You have the ICC, which has been seized by the state of Palestine in 2015. So you have the international mechanism that could conduct an investigation. Of course, that's not probably the time of investigation. Right now, the urgency is humanitarian relief. But, the time of justice is going to come.
Though the legal mechanisms are there, in reality they are hampered by Israel not recognising the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court, which means it would be unlikely to collaborate with it. Establishing the truth is also likely to be a challenge given the difficulties of preserving evidence in a war zone. The relative dearth of journalists present in Gaza also means international media outlets have had to rely on second-hand sources to piece together what happened. Some Western governments, such as France and the United Kingdom, have been cautious in apportioning blame for the attack. An inquiry might be able to cast light on what happened, but whether those same governments will throw their support behind one is another matter.
President Joe Biden returned to the United States from Israel without meeting Palestinian or Arab leaders. With the conflicts between Israel and Hamas intensifying, Washington's ability to prevent a wider war is becoming more complicated.
President Joe Biden was warmly embraced by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Wednesday as he made a high-stakes wartime visit to demonstrate U.S. solidarity after the brutal October 7th attacks by Hamas militants on Israeli civilians. But the explosion that killed hundreds of Palestinians Tuesday night at a Gaza hospital thwarted any such embrace from Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas or Jordan's King Abdullah, who canceled their planned meetings with Biden. Both Israel and Hamas deny they are responsible for the hospital blast. In Israel, Biden persuaded Netanyahu to allow international humanitarian aid and to help Gaza's 2.2 million residents, who are in desperate need of food, water, and fuel, saying he hoped crossings will begin Friday.
Israel agreed humanitarian assistance can begin to move from Egypt to Gaza.
Protesters took to the streets in Istanbul and many other cities across the world Wednesday and Thursday in support of Palestinians and against Israeli attacks on Gaza. Some protesters also expressed outrage at the United States for backing Israel, despite intensive shuttle diplomacy by Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who met with Arab leaders across the region. While Blinken and Biden were visiting the Middle East, Russian President Vladimir Putin was welcomed to Beijing by Chinese leader Xi Jinping. Addressing the Israel-Hamas conflict, Putin said that the growing number of world conflicts strengthens ties between Moscow and Beijing. Russia and China have refused to condemn the Hamas attacks on Israeli civilians. One expert told VOA this crisis has shown that the U.S. is now the only superpower in the Middle East.
It is the only superpower that has real military assets, and that's not just assets that it's going to give to Israel in the conflict. It's the 2 aircraft carriers in the Eastern Mediterranean. It's the security relationships with Jordan, with Egypt, with Saudi Arabia, with surrounding countries, and it is the diplomatic bandwidth to do the kind of conversations and activities that you've seen Secretary Blinken and the president engage in.
Russia and China are working together to upend the global order established after the Second World War. Former Deputy National Security Advisor Matthew Pottinger told VOA.
And now that she is hosting Vladimir Putin in Beijing, it's a continuation of this deepening partnership to try to drive chaos in Europe, to drive chaos in the Middle East, to eventually try to drive chaos right in China's front yard.
But another expert told VOA that, unlike Russia, China's interests in the Middle East may be more in line with America's.
I think China's interest in the Middle East is not for more war and instability, because they're even more dependent on the energy resources of the region.
Kusile said that the decision by Palestinian and Egyptian leaders not to meet with Biden so soon after the hospital explosion is not necessarily a sign they are not willing to work with the United States, but that they are sensitive to the reactions on their own streets.
With global criticism mounting over the attacks in Gaza, Israel's leaders have invited foreign journalists to visit the scenes of the carnage and see for themselves what sparked the war. Viewer discretion is also advised on the following story.
Wounded Palestinians rushed to medical care as the death toll climbs in the Gaza Strip after 2 weeks of unrelenting war. At the same time, pressure on Israel is mounting, and across the Middle East, North Africa, and much of the world, protests have erupted, demanding an end to the violence. In Berlin, tensions boil over as violent anti-Israel protests resulted in the arrest of 174 people. Meanwhile, in the West Bank, Israeli forces clashed with Palestinian demonstrators. The violence resulted in the deaths of several Palestinians. As international criticism intensifies, the humanitarian situation in Gaza deteriorates. But Israeli officials are determined to ensure the world does not forget the horrifying events of October 7, when Hamas militants launched a devastating attack on Israeli communities along the Gaza border, claiming the lives of 1,400 people.
This is the Israeli Forensic Institute, and behind me are people working on the identification of bodies, people who were killed last Saturday. They already identified more than 500 people, but some of them, they say, some of the bodies are in such a bad condition that they won't be possible to be identified.
Journalists were granted access to the necropsy rooms where the remains of the victims are being examined. Burned bones are scattered around, and doctors are painstakingly working to piece them together.
We're trying to figure out how many individuals could be included in this set of remains. And with this particular, what we found, a particular part of the mandible, the lower jaw, we found 3 of them. Each individual only has 2. So from that, we can say that in this case, there are at least 2 individuals included in these remains.
In southern Israel, near the Gaza Strip, journalists were also escorted through the Be'eri kibbutz, one of the communities that where the scars of the October 7th massacre by Hamas militants remain fresh. The scenes of destruction and even the motorcycles and guns used by Hamas attackers seemed untouched. Israel received another important sign of international support after U.S. President Joe Biden's visit. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak arrived in Israel Thursday with promises of support and an offer to mediate a deal for humanitarian aid to flow into Gaza. But even as these diplomatic efforts were underway, Israeli warplanes continued to pound Gaza, with authorities in the enclave raising the death toll already in the thousands as each hour went by.
Presidential hopefuls have been wrapping up their campaigns ahead of Argentina's upcoming election on Sunday, with the populist Donald Trump admirer and the country's center-left economy minister among the main contenders.
He held his closing campaign rally at an arena known for its rock concerts in front of thousands of supporters. Political firebrand and frontrunner Javier Milei vowed to change the, quote, decadent system if elected on Sunday.
Let's go to the polls. Let's go vote. Don't stay in your homes. Take your children, take your parents, take your friends, and take hope in your hearts, because Argentina has a future. But that future only exists if that future is liberal. Long live freedom, damn it.
Variously described as a libertarian, populist, and ultra-conservative, economist turned lawmaker Milei made a name for himself by railing against Argentina's political caste on television. He admires Donald Trump and says the answer to reining in chronically high inflation is to get rid of the central bank and dollarize the economy. Amid the country's cost of living crisis, many young Argentinians are pinning their hopes on Milei, who also wants to radically shrink the state, relax controls on guns, and reverse the legalization of abortion. Sergio Massa of the governing left-of-centre coalition is perhaps Milei's strongest rival, despite the turbulence he has overseen as economy minister. At his closing rally, he said the worst of the crisis has passed.
We want to discuss with the International Monetary Fund a program that has to do with the growth and development of Argentina, and not with inflation and the accumulation of reserves so that they can collect their debt.
Patricia Bullrich of the main right-of-centre opposition coalition is also polling well.
Milei's ideas are bad ideas.
Both Bullrich and Massa convey themselves as safer bets to govern the crisis-engulfed country, while Milei points to them as embodiments of an entrenched establishment.
We begin our sports roundup with football, where the Southern Super League under the Hoho region sees newly promoted side Amawele starting the new season on a high note with 2 wins in 2 games. Team head coach Sibusiso Dlamini says the main objective of the team this season is to maintain their position and avoid relegation.
We begin our sports roundup with football, where the Southern Super League under the Hoho region sees newly promoted side Amawela starting the new season on a high note with 2 wins in 2 games. Team head coach Sibusiso Dlamini says the main objective of the team this season is to maintain their position and avoid relegation. At the moment, they are not pressurizing themselves over promotion to the National First Division.
Then ngekuhamba kwesikhathi sitawubona ukuthi tiyavuma yini tibalo tetfu ukuthi singa-challenge for promotion.
We're taking each game at a time.
Team players Mfanzile Nkambule and Njabulo Makongo are speaking the same language with their head coach. The 2 players believe taking a game each at a time will bear good results. Having won 2 games is a sign of how committed they are as a team. Their last league encounter, Amawele won against Shooting Stars by 3-1. Moving on to rugby, Communication Officer of Eswatini Rugby Union, Pumule Kumete, says different programs to develop both men and women football continue in the country. Kumete says the main target in the beginning was the under-17 and under-19, but now they have moved to senior citizens. And in our international news, Brazil and Al Hilal star Neymar Jr. is likely to be out for about 10 months due to a knee injury that he suffered during the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers against Uruguay when Brazil lost 2-0. The 31-year-old is expected to go in surgery soon. For Eswatini TV Sports, Fabrice Msonela, Mbawani.
Satiphethe ngaleto temidlalo, sitawuthatha isikhefu sibe sichubeke netemidlalo.
Four minutes after 7 asiphindze sikwamukele ehlelweni Kusile breakfast show singena segment yethu lemnanzi kakhulu yokukhulumisa demidlalo. Fabrice Msonera, who has joined me in studio. Fabrice, a very good morning. We will be having quite the weekend, particularly at Bolen. Lakhaya just Abona Manzini Wanderers is going to play Eswatini United, Royal Leopard versus Mbabane Swallows. I think that's the biggest one. But also we will be seeing match day 9 of 38 in the English Premier League. We'll be seeing Chelsea playing a very good game. Chelsea versus Arsenal is going to be an interesting game. But also Man City versus Brighton. Excited to talk about that one as well. But Asqalela pa ekhaya Fabrice, we also saw my Euro qualifiers. We will talk about that briefly. Asqalela ekhaya, I think just going into the weekend, I'm really excited about Mbabane Swallows facing Royal Leopard, but sihlukene kunebantu baseshiselweni labayijabulelako insingizini versus Young Buffaloes. What would you say is your biggest game going into this weekend?
I think looking at the fixtures, you'd want to touch on the game that you mentioned first, Royal Leopard against Mbabane Swallows. I think for the longest time there was a rivalry between these two teams between 2012 and maybe 2020 for 8 years when Royal Leopard won the league 3 times in a row, when Mbabane Swallows was winning the Ingonyama Cup, when the two teams were representing the continent in CAF competitions, when the two teams were dominating the lineup of the national team, you'd have to recall the likes of Bo Amli, talk about Tony Tzabezon and Mbabane Swallows. You go the other side, you talk about Bo, Barinkamp, all these players, the teams, these two teams, Bom Zoro, these two teams, I think for the longest time, they showed us what they were capable of. But back then, we had the likes of Coach Sfiso Nuruntibane under Royal Leopards. Then there was the late Taboko Kivilagat. So there's so much history between the two teams. So for me, seeing this game for this weekend, then you have to get the picture that the season is really back at its best. It might be early. I think it's the 3rd or 4th game. Yes, 4th game of the season. Yeah. But then you have to start getting sense to say, we're seeing the teams that might really give us a proper good season. After the international break, most of the teams were on hold in terms of their players being on international duty. Teams like maybe Mbabane Swallows, players like Bogwake, they were on international duty. Royal Leopard, Bosfiso Matse, they were on international duty. So getting them back after the clash against Botswana on Monday, so which means they had a break on Tuesday. So they started training with the team regularly on Wednesday. So it's one of the games. But would
you say, Fabrice, for players like Bogwake, who have been on duty, of course, they've had a chance to, further play with other players and, further look into their strengths and weaknesses. Coming back from Mbabane Swallows, currently sitting on the 11th position, it's not really good looking for Mbabane Swallows against a Royal Leopard that's sitting on 5th position. Would you say now that's an edge for Mbabane Swallows, an advantage that they had some of their players on international duty, practicing?
You would say that is quite one would say, yeah,
an advantage.
Yeah.
Both sides have had players, like I mentioned. Swiso Mat's a Royal Leopard, Mzwandile Mabele is a Royal Leopard. These players were together in the national team. But when you mention a player like Gwaka, you mentioned, I'll give an example. Science have proven that when you started being active regularly at an early age, Gwaka is very young. I think he's under the age of 23 now, because he was the captain of the under-23 national team. Onkumbuta nje Bukayo Saka of Arsenal. These players, you can play the entire season, every day, without being injured. Get with the national team, play the whole games. So the same mentality with Gwaka is that he can give you full season with the club and full season, full international fixtures with the Sihlangu Semnigat. So him back, the likes of Ayanda Gadlera back, also talk about all these players when they are back, it's an advantage. But ask me, who do I think will go away with 3 points on this weekend, Saturday at Mopsa Sports Center? I think the two sides will share the points. I'm looking at where the two teams are. It could be 1-1, it could be 2-2, but they will share the points. Yes, I know what Coach Caleb Ngwenya, now he's back. There were rumors that now he's not with the team, that now they have reconciled. I know what it's all about, but I see a draw because even Edwin Matsebura for the Royal Leopards, he has that technique. So I see both sides sharing the points of the day.
I do see Edwin Matsebula coming out victorious, but we will talk about it next week, Monday. Nsingizini Hotspurs still hasn't gotten a win in the league, the Premier League, but we've seen how they've played in tournaments, and one asks themselves what is really wrong when it comes to the Premier League. They are coming into this game to face Young Buffaloes. Young Buffaloes have only won one game. I'm giving it to the Nsingizini Hotspurs, not because I'm from the Shiselweni region. I feel like they are building up momentum in the league.
Building up.
What's your analysis?
Same thing here, because there's confidence coming from winning the the Momo Cup, 2023 Momo Cup. There's that confidence, and I think I was talking to CEO on the sports show on Monday to say you're one of the team that is running football professionally. They've got 22 players. They both stay in the clubhouse, which means the players stay and in a place where they are paid for. They have a training facility that is now coming into shape. Playing on home soil now, because when you say home soil, when the games are based in Shisele and Kufana Nagutsivele, they are playing on their home soil. So I'm giving that confidence that they might upset this Buffalo side, which I think they're a tricky side as well. If you don't take your chances, team like Buffaloes, then they'll come back and demolish you and hit you. But there's another specific game, let's not forget it. Ilov, there's that one, but there's Ilov against Bavana Highlanders. Ilov is from beating the defending champions Green Mamba, 3-2. So now they're facing Bavana Highlanders. So there's that trickiness to say, can Ilov upset Bavana Highlanders? Bavana Highlanders, we managed to visit them yesterday at the playground. The likes of the new players, Bane the Popus Konze in the shape. You talk about Bo Stole and all the players. So there is a lot to look for in this coming weekend. But the game you mentioned, let's see what Nsingizini can do. Coach Mekmuase of Nsingizini was away on leave, and I think there were issues that maybe he wanted to leave the team and everything, but they cleared the air to say he was on leave for personal reasons. He was in Malawi, he's Malawian, so he's back with the team. He was drilling the team, I think, from Wednesday. So we can expect a good game.
Fabrice, Madlenya versus Seabirds. Madlenya, obviously, clearly the better team out of every other team in the Premier League. Just, 3 wins against, it's a 3-3, of course. They haven't lost a single game. But they're playing against a second positioned Madlenya, rather as Seabirds. I feel like Seabirds shouldn't be on the second position, but the analogy and how they've been put on the second place. Have played 4 matches. There are teams like Royal Leopards that have played 3 games and won 2. Madlenya has played 4 and won 2. So we will be seeing shifts on the fixture, on the standings after this weekend. But do we really see Madlenya cruising through Seabirds this weekend?
With the confidence they have, with also the what we call it, togetherness they have these days, they have that potential to go and get 3 points. Even if, for me, in my opinion, even if they manage to get a point and walk away with that point, they will still have a good position. Because when you talk to the coach, when you talk to the management, the objective is to try to maintain the position in the league. They don't want to be relegated. Now, why are you saying that they have started well? You mentioning the results, they have won all the games, but coming to this specific game, they wouldn't want to miss that history of winning 4 games in a row, and that will be their first ever in their history, just starting the league on this note. 12 points out of 12 points. And I think if they finish the first round with good results, I'm not saying they're going to win all the games in the first round, but they could really finish the league in a better position, probably in the top 10.
Okay, let's quickly look at the log standings. I think we've highlighted some of the biggest games. Madlenya, obviously position 1, haven't lost a single game. Seabirds, matches played 4, have only won 2. But here, this is where it gets interesting, because when we skip Green Mamba, who has the same stats as Seabirds, we look at Mbabane Highlanders and Royal Leopard. They've played 3 games, they've won 2, and they are below teams that have played 4 games and have won 2. Are we seeing Mbabane Highlanders and Royal Leopards possibly climbing up the log standings and becoming 2nd and 3rd position after this week?
You could say so, because you look at where they finished last season. I mean, the 2 teams were in the top 5. And these are some of the teams, when you begin the season, you sit and you say, what are the 5 teams that are giving a chance to win the league? Obviously, it's Green Mamba, the defending champions, Young Buffaloes, Royal Leopards, Mbabane Highlanders, and Mbabane Swallows. Those are the 5 teams you always start by giving a chance. I won't say they are now going to win the league, but when you look at how the season started, it's not bad, it's not good, it's almost in the middle of anything. But I'm giving them a chance maybe to finish among the top teams. It's early to say, it's early in the season. One would say, we have to play 26 games in the season. First round 13, the other one 30. So you have to look at maybe the games that are remaining. These teams have to play each other. We still have to get Mbabane Derby. We still have to get the Armed Forces Derby, Royal Leopards and Buffaloes. We still have to get another Armed Forces Derby, Royal Leopard, so Green Mamba. So you have to look at the fixtures that are remaining. Yes, they will climb up, but it's early to say the 2 teams will win the league.
Let's go into the English Premier League. I think this is going to be the most exciting fixtures going into this weekend. Obviously, we're starting with Liverpool versus Everton tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. Let's just analyze this game quickly. Liverpool not really having a great start into the season, according to me, because certain teams you don't want to see ahead of them, the likes of Tottenham, of course, occupying the first position. But you have Arsenal and you have Man City, then you have Liverpool against Everton. I think it's going to be an easy win for Liverpool because they are playing against the 16th position.
This is what they call the Merseyside Derby. Biggest game, one of the biggest game in the world. Because when you make a top 10 of some of the biggest game in the world, you mentioned Tottenham, Arsenal, you mentioned Manchester City, Manchester United, Liverpool, Everton, Kaizer Chiefs, Pirates. You mentioned Al Ahly and Zamalek in Egypt. You have to mention also some of the biggest game in the world. And this game, it falls in because specifically, maybe for some of the Liverpool supporters who don't know, in the beginning, I nearly quoted the Bible to say, in the beginning there was the world. In the beginning, actually, Everton is the oldest team within Liverpool City. So there was Everton, then there was a group of Everton members that put out of the deal and they went to create a team called Liverpool. So Everton is older than Liverpool, if you had to research that. So it's one of the biggest games. So the rivalry as FISO has gone to a level where you, as FISO, your family, if you tell your family you want to marry someone who supports Everton, then they have to put a question mark. Because then, on the day they play, do you fight with your wife and everything? So it's one of the biggest games. You look at the momentum of the team, Liverpool, they haven't really started badly or good, but they are there. You can give them that chance because they're within the top 4 of the season, as you can see. So, and I think this season, they will challenge compared to last season where they had challenges, but they will challenge this season. And going to play against Everton on Saturday, first game of the weekend after the international break, they have that chance of getting 3 points. But you look at another London derby, which I say the issue between Arsenal and Chelsea that is sitting 11th is that which color is London? Is London blue?
It's blue, obviously. London is always blue.
Yeah, is London blue? Is London red? But you have to see the current form. Arsenal is in a better form, but going to Stamford Bridge at Chelsea.
Are they in a better form? Justify that. How are they in a better form? Because I'm looking at Chelsea's last 2 games and how they've performed. For me, that form is really something you ought to be worried about as Arsenal.
Okay, last season, I'll compare to last season, it's 8 games. By 8 games last season, Arsenal had lost to Manchester United. That's the only game they had lost. and they were yet to play Manchester City. Not sure if they will win.
Yeah.
But this season they have played 8 games. They have defeated Manchester City. Once you defeat the best, which means you're also one of the best. They have defeated Manchester United. So in terms of points, they are not where they were last season. But in terms of how they've played against their opponents, they have now showed a bit of a character. So I think the game against Tottenham, maybe they could have also gotten 3 points. But sitting number 2, they're sitting number 1 because let me clear this. They're equal. Everything is equal. And then people asking, why is Tottenham ahead of Arsenal in terms of where they're sitting? It's because when they play, the two sides when they played a draw. And who was away? It's Tottenham. But if you look at in terms of goal conceded, you also look at the goal against. Goal against, obviously, you look at Tottenham 8 and then you look at Arsenal 6. But in England, that is not much conceded. But you look at points, you look at games played, you look at in terms of also goal, defensive going forward, everything's almost equal. But we can't say really Tottenham is number 1. Arsenal is also equal number 1. But the game against Manchester City and Brighton might change everything, because if Brighton is anything but to upset Manchester City and then Arsenal gets 3 points.
I want us to go back to Chelsea versus Arsenal, because you saying Arsenal is in better form and justifying by how they started last season and how they've started this season. I'm judging their form based on their recent games, their most recent games. Of course, you have beaten Manchester City.
Yes.
I'll give you that. But you consider
Arsenal
the goal.
has beaten Manchester City.
Yes, Arsenal. Yes, but you are Arsenal.
No,
yes, Arsenal. Of course, you've been speaking so passionately about Arsenal. But let's continue with our analysis. Arsenal, obviously beating Manchester City. 1-0, by the way, which is a champion score, you may call it that, but it's 1-0.
Look at the game itself.
They considered a goal in the UEFA Champions League against Lens, which is also very recent. It's actually a game before the Man City one. Let's look at Chelsea's record ahead of this game that they're going to play against Arsenal, and then we're going to talk form.
I'm hearing the facts.
Chelsea against Burnley, 4-1. 4-1. Chelsea against Fulham, 2-0. Chelsea against Brighton, 1-0. But their last 2 games, they've won clearly, just clearly. And then you look at Arsenal. Yes, Manchester City, a great team.
That's enough. You don't even have to go further. Just against Manchester City.
Is it enough, though?
The only worry maybe you can highlight in terms of Arsenal is that the injury issues that is within the team. Is Saka going to play? Latest development got last night is that Ken Saliba feature in the game, one of the best defenders of the season last season, with how he confidently was able to hold on Erling Haaland in the recent game. You have to put on that question, but come to the game. I will tell you this, even the players, even the coach, I'm not trying to say that's the final result, but I don't think amongst the team that Michael Arteta, when he sits, he says teams that are going to give him a problem, I don't think it's Chelsea. There's a little bit of instability within Stamford Bridge in terms of who starts. Coach Pochettino hasn't really got his first 11. With Arsenal, it's easy. You can sit and just map it out to say who starts, who doesn't start. But with Chelsea, you still don't get the proper lineup. Yes, I've seen the likes of Sterling getting on their back on form. But can they give you consistency? Because, yes, they've won 2. But remember, they're from a period of almost 7 months, including last season, 7 or 8 months without even scoring a single goal.
Well, I'm judging form by recent. I'm looking at your last 2 games, and I'm putting form on my analysis there. And I'm saying Chelsea is in better form compared to Arsenal coming into this game.
No,
because you highlighted...
I'll let you get the glory.
I don't want us to have a very, extended debate, but I just want to highlight that the same Manchester City are so confident about beating, also lost to Wolves 1-0 with the same score. Are we then saying that that's enough for Wolves? They've beaten Manchester City.
The only thing maybe I can agree with you is that when you talk about derbies, when it's a derby, sometimes it's not about who is on form or who is doing better today. It's just the spirit, the fight. Anything can happen.
You don't think Chelsea has that fight?
That's when I can agree with you. But when you look at on paper, there's what you call winning possibilities and winning probabilities. There's a difference between a winning probability and winning possibility. When you look at a winning possibility, it means it's what you're saying based on the recent results.
Okay, but probability is based on facts.
On facts, we say last season Chelsea finished maybe 11th, Arsenal finished 2nd. That's a probability.
Fair enough. I also give you that because also when you look at head-to-head games, their last 4, Clashes, Arsenal won all 4 of them.
I like
Chelsea
how
probably
you're
won
coming
the 5th
this side.
No. I'll agree with you on facts, but also it's also factual to use the last recent games, and Chelsea has been looking really good. So this means for us, I think, even for the viewer, it's going to be a blockbuster of a game.
Did you just
a
say
really
us, as Chelsea? Wow.
No,
We
I mean
got
for
you now.
us as, analyzing this game
Oh, wow.
together, debating
Okay.
about this game, and for the viewers at home, it really is going to be a great game. Let's talk about Manchester City quickly. Of course, they lost to Wolves. Not very confident about how they're going to play against
In
Brighton.
fact, they lost their last 3 games because they lost in the Carling Cup. They went on to lose in the league against Wolves, and then they lost against Arsenal.
Yeah,
That's
and
something that has
Brighton-
never happened to Pep since he got the club.
And Brighton has had a fairly good run when you look
Yeah.
at the caliber of what kind of team they are, because they drew with Liverpool, and they're now going to play this Manchester City that's playing on the 3rd position, having lost a couple of their last few games. It just gets to show you how great of a team they are. But how do you suspect they're going to play against Brighton?
Oh my God, this is a really, really strong league. Look at number 6, 7, 8,
Yeah.
9. All these are London clubs. Okay, not Brighton is not from London, but you look at West Ham London, you look at Crystal Palace, London, look at Newcastle. But some of this team, look at Manchester 10. It's quite a surprise, but it's early in the season. Brighton have got the capability of going to Manchester City and hold a draw. They have got that capability. I think there's also the spirit within the team, because with Brighton, you don't rely on one player. Anyone can come in the game and just get 3 points for their side. So I've seen what they have done against Manchester United. So it's possible. It's possible. I'm not saying they'll beat my results in this game. I would say if City doesn't win, then it's a draw. I'm not saying Brighton will win. No, they might put them on a draw. But if City doesn't win, then it's going to be a draw.
So if there's any winning possibility going into this game, it's
City will
certainly
get 3
going
points.
to Manchester
Yeah.
City.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a fair analysis. I'll give you that. But, Brighton has played 8 games, just like City. They've won 5. City has won 6. So a win is not far off from Brighton. I think I'm going into this game with, I'm not surprised with any result.
I think Pep knows that with losing 3 games in a row, he needs to do something. And I think he's done something. I was just looking at some of the reports with players who didn't leave for international duty and the players that remained, what he had to do and what he had to, change. So I think for me, coming to this game, I'm confident. He knows that he has to get the fans back into the mood, confidence-wise. So I think he will get 3 points this weekend. If that's not the case, a draw for Brighton.
Fabrice, briefly, Euro qualifiers, England has been playing really good. France has been playing. Belgium. For me, it was hard for me to even pick a team because my favorite international team is not even in Europe. So I don't really support them like that. Of course, Argentina. Messi, by the way, who has won his 8th Ballon d'Or. I think that's a moment for Messi. Are you clapping hands for Messi there?
I know he's
deserved.
No, I think he's the God. I think he is.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah,
or you know so?
Because I think we've never had a player in the entire world since the beginning of the world, since the beginning of the football itself. Because you have to remember that England is the oldest national team in the history. That's when they say FA is FA. FA is actually older than FIFA. People didn't know that. So England are the oldest people when it comes to football. So Argentina, they have a player like Messi. So since we know football, we've never had someone who's won everything that he's played for, because Messi has won everything that he's played for, and he's got everything that he's played for on a personal capacity. And I think that's where maybe we might talk about personal, qualities and everything compared with Cristiano. Let's not go far. Cristiano is one of the best. I mean, at the age of 38, what he's doing is not easy. But at the age of 38, some players are coaches now, but that he played with. Talk about Rooney, talk about even Zidane. They are players now.
Backs,
They are coaches now. He's still a player, and I think he will play. You don't be shocked if you see Cristiano in the 2026 World Cup in America. You don't be shocked. He will be there. But then you look at also Messi, what he has achieved. Winning the World Cup, I think that's where he overtook Cristiano. Just winning the World Cup. We might talk about the Ballon d'Or 8 versus 5 or 6.
The World Cup certainly was the separate.
The World Cup just put him there, which I think Cristiano is still lacking, because if you look at some of the best players we've seen, Zidane, Ronaldo, Pele, Maradona, all these players have won the World Cup. Cristiano is just missing that. And I think that's why he would want to go to the 2026 World Cup to say, let me try my last chance. So for Messi, I think he's the best. He's the best, and we're yet to see something. Talking about the teams that have qualified, I think I'm not surprised. We're going to see a beautiful, beautiful Euro in next year. France, of course, they will do what they do best to get it on home soil. And you get a look at teams like England, you look at teams like Belgium, Scotland also showing some, character, Switzerland, all these teams. I mean, we can't wait. It's going to be a beautiful, beautiful Euro, competition. But remember, January, the Africa Cup of Nations also is coming.
Yeah.
You've got Cameroon, you've got Senegal, you've got Nigeria, you've got teams are there. South Africa is going to be there. So teams are there.
Our football fans are certainly going to be spoiled for the next couple of months. But Fabrice, we only have just a minute together on the show. Maybe we could highlight some of the biggest games in match day 10 of 38 of La Liga, returning after a break as well since October 8. We will be seeing Barcelona up against Athletic Club. Athletic Club is in the top 5 as well, by the way. Real Madrid leading the standings is also going to have itself quite the weekend against Sevilla tomorrow. Really interested in that one. It's a very tough game.
Yeah, it's a tough game.
Atletico Madrid. I'm expecting Atletico Madrid to come out victorious this coming weekend. But when I just look at the current standings, Fabrice, I'm really worried for FC Barcelona because, as a Barcelona fan, by the way, I should put that disclaimer. Real Madrid is looking absolutely good.
They're looking good, but like I said, you look at how many games that have been played in the season so far, and we're yet to see the El Clasico. And anything happens, if they maintain this, form, both sides, 24, 20 to 21 points, and they meet for the El Clasico. And if Barcelona manage to beat them, I mean, it's because, like I said, in England, we can share points. But if you've scored more goals, you're the champion. In Spain, it's head-to-head. We can share points 24-24. On the last day of the trophy, if you beat them, if you beat me and you're number 2, you take the trophy home. So anything is possible. They are not far from where they're supposed to be, talking about Barcelona. But that game, Sevilla against Madrid, Madrid going to Sevilla, and some of the well-experienced players like Jesus, you talk about those players, Jesus Navas, there's Isco from Madrid, he's played for Madrid, grew up in the academy, talk about, Rakitic. So it's going to be a beautiful game.
It's quite interesting because it's just a probability kind of game. It's history. But more than anything, Sevilla is sitting on the 14th position and Madrid is in the 1st position. So
early in the season, like I said, anything can happen.
Fabrice, thank you for your time. We've come to the end of the program. Thank you for joining us in Niben and Pelason for Lentle.